Roblox looks bright, fun, and harmless. But when millions of players are online every day, strange things start happening. And the weirdest part is that some of the creepiest stories don't come from forgotten games. They come from the most popular Roblox games right now. Tonight, we're looking at 5 creepy Roblox stories inspired by games players can't stop talking about. And trust me, the last one is the one I still can't explain. Everyone knows Doors is one of the biggest horror games on Roblox. It's built on tension, sound, timing, and that constant feeling that something is always one room ahead of you. That's exactly why one player said this experience felt so wrong from the beginning. He joined a public lobby late at night and ended up with 3 other random players. At first, everything felt normal. The run started like every other Doors match. People were opening drawers, grabbing coins, and rushing the early rooms because everyone thought they knew the game already. 2 of the players were talking in chat, joking around, acting confident. The 3rd player didn't say anything at all. No chat, no emotes, no movement that looked human. He would just stop sometimes. Not for a second or 2. Longer. Long enough for everyone else to enter the next room while he stayed behind, standing perfectly still in the dark. Then, without warning, he would catch up. Not sprinting. Not reacting. Just suddenly there again, like he had always been with them. By the time they reached the 20s, the player telling the story said he was already more focused on this silent teammate than the monsters. Twice, he looked back and caught the guy facing the wrong direction, not toward the team, toward a closed door they had already passed, just standing there, as if he was listening to something on the other side. The others started noticing it too. One of them typed, "Bro, move." Another typed, "Why are you doing that?" No answer. The run kept going. Rush came and went. Seek appeared. 2 players got excited and ran ahead. The silent one stayed close behind the storyteller now, never in front, never too far back. Close enough to feel like a shadow. Then they reached door 49. Anyone who plays Doors knows this room matters because it leads into the library section. The player said the room was dark, almost unusually dark, and for some reason the silent teammate walked up to the door and just stood there. He didn't open it. He didn't turn. He stood with his face inches away from the wood. The storyteller walked closer and saw something weird. The teammate's display name wasn't loading properly. It was there at the start of the game, but now it looked broken, almost blank, like the text had been erased. He typed, "Open it." The silent teammate took 1 step to the side. So the storyteller opened door 49 himself, and what he saw made him stop. There was already someone in the room, not a monster, not a teammate. A player, just standing between the bookshelves, far in the back, where no one should have been yet. The problem was simple. There were only supposed to be 4 players in the match, and all 4 were accounted for. The 2 players ahead were behind him. The silent one was next to him, and he was standing in the doorway. So who was inside the library? He backed up immediately. The others rushed forward asking what happened, but the figure inside the room moved behind a shelf before anyone else got a clear look. One teammate laughed and said it was probably a visual bug. Another said maybe a late-loaded model glitched in. Then the silent teammate finally used chat for the first time. He typed one message, "Don't go in yet." Nobody even had time to react before the lights flickered and the entire run froze for half a second. Then the screen snapped back to normal. The figure in the library was gone. So was the silent teammate. Not dead, not disconnected. Gone. His player slot vanished from the side panel like he had never joined at all. The storyteller and the other 2 went into the library anyway. They finished the room, but the entire rest of the run felt cursed. Sounds triggered late. 1 door opened before anyone touched it, and when they all died near the end, they returned to the lobby and checked the recent players list. There had only ever been 3 names, not 4. To this day, the player says he doesn't care whether it was a glitch, a bug, or someone exploiting. He just remembers one thing clearly. Before he opened door 49, there were 4 of them. Brookhaven RP is one of the biggest games on Roblox for a reason. It looks safe, familiar, calm. It's the kind of game where people role-play families, police chases, school drama, and silly neighborhood stories. Which is probably why creepy moments feel even worse there. Horror feels expected indoors. In Brookhaven, it feels personal. A player said he joined Brookhaven at around 2 in the morning because he couldn't sleep. He wasn't there to roleplay with anyone. He just liked driving around empty servers and exploring the map when it was quiet. He found a server with only 6 people in it, which was perfect. The streets looked nearly empty. The houses were dark. The town felt almost peaceful. He grabbed a car and started driving through the neighborhood. That's when he noticed one house with all the lights on. Not just one room, the whole house. That by itself wouldn't be weird, except the player list showed no one had that home selected. He checked twice. No one owned it. Still, the front door was open. He parked outside and walked in. The living room lights were on. The TV was off. Upstairs, one bedroom door was half open. He went up slowly, mostly expecting someone to jump out and troll him. Nobody did. The entire house was empty. Then he heard the shower running. He walked to the bathroom and saw steam through the glass. The shower sound was definitely on. But when he opened the door, the room was dry. No water, no player, nothing. At that point, he left the house and typed in chat, "Whose house is that?" No one answered. A minute later, the lights turned off all at once. He decided to drive away. He told himself it was probably just a delayed house setting or some weird Brookhaven bug. But when he looked in the rearview mirror while driving down the street, he saw someone standing in the upstairs window, completely still. He stopped the car and looked back directly. The window was empty. That's when someone finally replied in chat, not to his question, just one line. "You went inside?" The message came from a username he didn't recognize. He checked the player list and found the name, but the avatar icon wasn't loading, just a gray placeholder. He typed back, "Yeah, why?" No answer. A few seconds later, every light in the house came back on. Not just that house. Every house on the street, one after another, like a wave. He said the whole neighborhood suddenly felt wrong, like the game had turned into a stage and he was the only one who didn't know the script. He got back into the car and drove toward the town center, but the same gray icon player kept appearing in different places. At the gas station, near the school, standing across from the hospital. Never moving when watched, never speaking again. So the player did what almost everyone does in a weird Roblox moment. He checked if anyone else noticed. He typed, "Who is that guy?" This time another person answered, "Leave him alone." Now he was really uncomfortable, because that meant at least one other player knew exactly who he meant. He drove back to spawn, planning to switch servers. But before he could open the menu, his screen went black for a second, and one sound played through his headphones. A doorbell. When the screen came back, his avatar was no longer at spawn. He was standing inside that same house again, in the upstairs hallway, facing the half-open bedroom door. The shower was running. He left the server immediately. The next day, he tried to find the same player from his recent list. The gray icon username was there, but clicking the profile led nowhere. No avatar, no page, no error message, just a blank screen. He still plays Brookhaven, but he says one thing changed after that night. If he sees a house with every light on and no owner attached to it, he keeps driving. Blox Fruits is one of the biggest games on Roblox right now, and that makes sense. The game is built for grinding, sailing, boss fights, rare drops, and long sessions that can stretch late into the night. That's exactly when one crew says they saw something they still talk about whenever they play together. It started during a routine farming session. 3 friends were on voice chat, sailing between islands to finish quests and hunt enemies. Nothing special. They'd been playing for hours, the kind of long grind where everyone gets tired and starts talking less. One guy was focused on levels, one was trying to save for a fruit, and the third was mostly steering the boat and joking around. At some point, one of them noticed another ship in the distance. That wasn't unusual by itself, but the ship wasn't moving like a player-controlled boat. It would disappear behind the waves, then reappear in exactly the same line behind them, always far enough away to be hard to inspect. They changed direction. The ship changed direction. They stopped. The ship seemed to stop too. One of the friends zoomed his view and said he could see somebody standing at the front of it. No movement, no weapon drawn. Just a figure facing them. At first, they thought it was another player trolling, so they turned toward it. The moment they did, the ship drifted behind a rock formation. They rounded the side expecting to see it. And there was nothing there. Open water, no combat, no splash, no players on the horizon. They laughed it off and kept going. 10 minutes later, They were docked at another island when one of them asked a weird question. "Why is our old boat over there?" He pointed to the water, and sure enough, there was a ship with the same shape as theirs floating offshore. The problem was, their actual ship was right next to them at the dock. Now everyone got quiet. One player wanted to board it immediately. Another said absolutely not. In the end, curiosity won. They launched back out and approached slowly. The ocean was calm. No enemy music. No attack indicators. Just that boat, drifting like it was waiting. When they got close enough to jump aboard, they realized the deck was empty. But below deck, they heard footsteps. Not the normal creaking of the ship. Footsteps. One friend jumped down first and shouted for the others to follow. They found nothing. No enemies. No players. No loot. Just one chest in the corner, already open. Then the third friend, the one still above, yelled into voice chat and said there was someone at the wheel. The two below rushed up. Nobody was there, and yet the wheel was turning on its own. At this point they tried to leave, but their own ship had drifted away from them, as if pushed by something invisible. One of them swore he saw a username flash near the mast for a split second, but it vanished before he could read it. Another said he heard a player death sound, except none of them had taken damage. Then all three got the same message in chat. Not from the system, from a player. Wrong ship. They checked the player list instantly. No new name had joined. Now panic kicked in. They jumped into the water and swam back to their own boat as fast as they could. One made it first. The second was right behind him. The third suddenly stopped talking. When they turned back, his character was just gone from the water. Not dead, not floating. Gone. He disconnected from voice for about 10 seconds, then came back sounding genuinely shaken. He said his screen had frozen and shown him standing alone on the deck of the other ship, while the two of them were nowhere in sight. Then, it kicked him back to normal. The crew left the server after that. The weirdest part came later when they reviewed one friend's recording. At one point, just before they boarded the second ship, the camera caught a name above the mast for a single frame. It looked almost blank, except for one word: return. They still play Blox Fruits now. They still grind. They still sail. But none of them chase strange ships anymore. Not after the one that followed them first. Even now, years later, John Doe is still one of the most famous names in Roblox myth culture. The original account was only a developer test account, but the legend around it became much bigger than the truth. That's what makes the next story so unsettling. Everyone involved knew the myth already, which meant nobody was supposed to fall for something so simple. A small creator was streaming a Roblox myth hunting session with two friends. Their whole plan was to join creepy games, explore old myths, and laugh at how fake everything was. They talked about John Doe, Guest 66, and 111 or 111 like everyone does in those videos. Half serious, half joking. Chat was spamming myth names the whole time. Eventually, one viewer told them to join an old-looking game that had almost no players. The title was generic, like something generated years ago. Nothing about it screamed John Doe game. It just looked unfinished. Gray base plates, scattered buildings, a cloudy skybox, and a spawn area with outdated textures. There was only one other player in the server when they joined. His username wasn't John Doe, but his avatar looked close enough to make the joke obvious. Blocky old clothing, default proportions, basic smile, no accessories. The streamer laughed immediately and said, "Okay, very funny." The player didn't move. One friend walked up and started circling him. The other checked the map for hidden scripts or admin panels. The streamer kept talking to chat, mostly mocking the setup. Then the standing avatar moved for the first time. One step, that was it. Just one step forward. At that exact moment, all three of them lost their name tags. Not their usernames in the player list, the labels above their characters' heads. Gone. The streamer joked again, but his tone changed a little. It was one thing to enter a creepy map. It was another for multiple players to experience the same visual glitch at once. They spread out and kept exploring. The map was mostly empty, but in one building they found a hallway lined with doors. Each door had a small plaque above it. Most were blank. One said test, one said admin, and one said JD. Of course they opened that one first. Inside was a tiny square room with a chair facing the wall. Nothing else. Then the streamer's friend said, "Guys, he's not at spawn anymore." They all turned back toward the main area. The old-looking avatar was now standing at the far end of the hallway behind them. No footsteps, no transition, just there. Chat on the stream exploded. Some people said it was staged. Some said the game creator was trolling. The streamer tried to keep the mood light, but then something happened that made the clip spread afterward. The old avatar typed a message in public chat. Not hello, not boo, not something cheesy. He typed, "Which one of you used my name for views?" Everything went quiet for a second. That line hit hard because the streamer had, in fact, used John Doe in the stream title. One friend left the game instantly. He later claimed it was a joke, but the streamer said the timing was too fast. Like fear beat logic. The remaining 2 players tried to speak to the avatar, but he said nothing else. Instead, every door in the hallway opened at once, not animated, just snapped open. The room labeled JD was now empty, and the chair inside had turned around. The streamer ended the session within 2 minutes of that. Later, when he checked the server logs and the VOD, he found plenty of weird stuff he could explain away as exploit behavior or map scripting. Except for one detail. The player who typed that message never appeared in the recent players list. There was only the streamer and his 2 friends. No 4th account at all. So yes, maybe it was a staged myth game. Maybe it was a clever exploit. Maybe someone found the perfect way to make a John Doe moment feel real. But the line that stuck with him wasn't the visual stuff. It was the message. Which one of you used my name for views? Because in that moment, it didn't feel like a joke anymore. It felt annoyed. Not every creepy Roblox story comes from a horror game. In fact, some of the weirdest stories come from games that are supposed to feel calm. Right now, games like Grow a Garden are exploding because they're relaxing. You plant things, wait, upgrade, and check back in. It's simple, peaceful, until something starts happening that the game was never designed to do. Grow a Garden has recently surged hard enough to set player count records, which makes it one of the clearest examples of how a soft, cozy game can suddenly become the perfect setting for something unsettling. One player described joining a nearly full server just to unwind. He claimed he had no interest in roleplay or trolling. He wanted a quiet session. Plant, harvest, reorganize, maybe leave the game running in the background. At first, that's exactly what happened. He claimed one plot near the edge of the map was empty most of the time, so he picked a spot nearby and started building his usual layout. After a while, he noticed the empty plot had changed. A single plant had appeared there. That wasn't strange by itself. Someone could have joined, but the plot still showed no owner overhead and no avatar was visible. The plant was just there, swaying slightly like normal. He ignored it. A few minutes later, there were 3 plants, then 5, then a full row. He checked the player list. Nobody knew. Now he was interested. He walked over to the plot and saw that every plant on it was the exact same size, same color, same spacing. Too neat. Almost copied and pasted. He stood there for a few seconds and then typed in chat, "Whose plot is this?" No one answered, so he went back to his side and kept playing. When he turned around again, the plot had expanded. Not literally bigger than the game allowed, but visually fuller. As if an entire hour of farming had happened in under a minute. Sprouts, flowers, taller crops, decorations he hadn't seen appear, all growing in silence. No planting animation, no player interaction, just progress. Then a message appeared in chat. "Don't harvest from mine." He checked the player list again. Same names, same number of players, no one around him. He replied, "I didn't." No response. At this point, he started screen recording because he thought he'd caught some kind of rare bug. He walked toward the strange plot again, and this time he noticed something wrong at the center of it. A watering can placed on the ground, upright, with no player holding it. As he approached, one crop in the middle suddenly grew taller than everything else. Not naturally, not gradually. It stretched upward in one motion like the game had fast-forwarded. Then another message appeared. "You're too close." That was enough for him to back away. He tried to leave the server, but before he could open the menu, every plant on his own plot reset to an earlier stage. Not gone, just younger, like time had rolled back for his garden alone. He said his chest actually dropped when he saw it, because that kind of thing felt less like a visual glitch and more like the game was responding. The strange plot, meanwhile, kept growing. Other players started to notice. One person ran over and stood near it. Another typed, What is happening? Then, right in front of everyone, the plot owner name appeared for a split second. It was just one word. Waiting. Then it vanished. Seconds later, the whole plot cleared itself. Plants, decorations, watering can, everything. Empty soil. No owner. No chat. Like the last 15 minutes had never happened. The player saved the recording and left. Later, he reviewed the footage frame by frame and found something even stranger. At one point, reflected in a shiny decorative object on the edge of the plot, there was an avatar standing behind him. He never saw that avatar in real time. No name, no movement, just a figure. He still plays cozy Roblox games, but he says they stopped feeling harmless after that night. Because horror in a dark game is expected. Horror in a peaceful one feels like it followed you there. So yeah, Roblox might look simple on the surface, but with so many players, so many servers, and so many strange moments caught in random games, it's no surprise that some stories refuse to die. Out of all 5, tell me which one was the creepiest in the comments. And if you want more long Roblox mystery videos like this, subscribe, because the next one gets even darker.